And I'd like to welcome both the Department and Enterprise Ireland here this afternoon. Your presence is hugely important, really, as we seek to reopen the economy and reboot the economy from a business point of view, particularly as we, journey through COVID-19, but equally so with an eye to recovery for the business sector post-COVID-19. I appreciate there are many supports being put in place, some perhaps not working as well as they should do. And in that vein, I would specifically like to reference the business restart scheme, which I appreciate is tied to rates and that, but it's a scheme that excludes quite a cohort of people, particularly, for example, in my own county of Kerry, a very strong tourism county. There's a whole section of B&Bs that have been excluded, from the business restart scheme. And this would be an area where they have been without business practically for the year. Very difficult to see them up and running without any specific supports at this stage or later in the year. And equally so, we have bus operators, we have community centres. So there's huge sections of society that are excluded from this specific support. And I would just like to put the question, perhaps, Dr. Quinn, is there an opportunity for a similar type scheme to be brought in for those who are currently excluded?
Thank you, Deputy Foley. The Restart Grant Scheme, it's 250 million. It was made available, and we estimate around 100,000 companies will benefit from it. It is a recognition of businesses who have maintained links back with their staff as well, and it's available to micro businesses. It is based on the commercial rates, and I think that's possibly what you're referring to when you refer to the B&B business. I mean, all of these schemes are kept under review, and obviously there's the Tourism Task Force Recovery Task Force meeting at the moment, and that's obviously something that they could well look at. To date, just to say, we've had in the region of 20,000 applicants and 15,000 approved. It is obviously an opportunity for businesses in particular who have costs of starting back in their business, be that in terms of health and safety, perspex, etc., to cover some of those costs, and it was done on that basis.
Yeah, thank you, and I welcome the fact that you say that everything can be reviewed going forward, so I appreciate that. Could I also just pose a question in relation to the return to work safety protocol? I think there seems to be a delay, particularly, we'd say, in sector-specific guidelines. I'd refer in particular perhaps to public houses, hairdressers, barbers, beauty therapists and that. Very large operators who would need sector-specific guidelines at this stage. And I'd just like to pose the question where exactly that is at this point in time. And could I also raise a point that was raised with me by a number of people in the beauty sector, that these are highly trained professionals, many of them with a scientific background, who were, prior to COVID-19, working in quite a sanitised environment anyway, given the types of treatments that they were making available, and would feel very much excluded at this stage. They have worked in a sterile environment, they're very au fait with what's required, and yet they are very low in the pecking order as regards return to work. And I'd just like to pose that also. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy, and I do appreciate that, and certainly being in contact with the sector and having meetings with them, we do appreciate their concerns. The National Return to Work Safely Protocol is obviously developed for everybody in business to be able to work with it, and we've made it very clear that what it sets out is the standard required, but businesses can adapt it to meet their own needs. Certainly, I know in terms of the beauty sector and the personal services, they are working on that and they are adapting it. We have worked closely through the National Standards Authority, which is one of our agencies, for example, with the retail sector. And this week we're working very specifically on the opening of the shopping centres, again, because identified as a particular issue. So we are available to help and to advise where there are areas. And I certainly take your point, as you said, Deputy, that the standards of hygiene that they use is very high. We're guided by public health, obviously, on this. and I know they're very keen to come back to work, and we're very keen as well. So
thank you, appreciate that. One very quick question to Ms. Cinnamon, please. Just in relation to the trading online voucher scheme, and I appreciate the very good news yesterday that was increased, but it has a phenomenal uptake. Is there opportunity going forward as well for a continual review of that, with the potential for it to be increased on an ongoing basis?
Thank you, Deputy. And obviously there was a significant increase in the funding yesterday by 14.2 million. We have constantly kept all of the schemes under review and have responded depending on need. But at this point in time, there aren't plans to increase the funding further, but we will be reviewing all the schemes based on need.